The day he found her half buried in sand. The desert was endless. Hot wind blew across the sand, carrying dust and dry heat. The sky above was white and empty. No clouds, no birds. Only the sound of the wind howling like a lonely ghost. Dale walked slowly, boots crunching on the hot ground. He wore a long coat and a scarf over his mouth. His eyes were sharp, always searching. He was a scavenger, one of the last humans still living in the wild. He wasn't looking for people. He was looking for old tech, broken machines, or anything useful left behind from the last war. But that day he found something else. At first he thought it was just a pile of old cloth, a strange shape lying in the sand near a rock. Then the wind blew harder, and a hand appeared, thin. Not human. Skin pale purple and cracked. Fingers curled tightly, still moving. Dale stopped. His eyes narrowed. Slowly, he walked forward. The hand didn't move again. He knelt down and brushed away the sand. Bit by bit, a small body came into view. A girl. An alien girl. She was young, maybe no older than 20. Her arms were bruised, her face was covered in cuts. Her lips were dry, her eyes closed. She was alive. Barely. Dale reached for his water pouch and opened it. "Hey," he said, his voice calm. "Don't die yet." She didn't answer. He poured a few drops on her lips. Her mouth twitched. Then slowly her eyes opened just a little. They were bright, glowing softly like stars. Full of fear, she gasped and tried to speak, but no words came. "Easy," Dale said. "I'm not going to hurt you." Still no reply. She didn't understand him. He looked around. No other footprints, no signs of a crash. She was alone. Someone must have left her here to die. Dale cursed under his breath. He could leave, walk away. He had done it before. Helping someone meant risk, extra food, water, danger. But something in her eyes stopped him. He took off his coat and wrapped it around her body. Then, carefully, he lifted her into his arms. She was light. Too light. Her bones felt weak. She tried to fight, barely, but her strength was gone. "Save your energy," he said. "You're safe now." Hours later, Dale's shelter was built into the side of a rocky hill. It wasn't much, just a metal door, a small solar unit, and an old antenna that didn't work anymore. But it was cool inside, and it had water. He placed the girl gently on a bed made from old blankets and checked her pulse again, still alive. Barely. He cleaned her wounds with soft cloth and boiled water. She flinched when he touched her, but she didn't scream. She couldn't. He gave her small sips of water one at a time. Her eyes followed him the whole time. She didn't blink much. Dale sighed. "What the hell happened to you, girl?" He looked at her again. Really looked. She wasn't just a random alien. Her clothes were torn, but made of fine cloth. Her skin, markings looked like tattoos, but they glowed faintly. She was from a race he had only heard about in stories. The Eliari, a peaceful people who lived far from human colonies. They weren't fighters. So what was she doing here? Why was she alone in the worst part of the desert? That night, the girl was still too weak to speak. She drifted in and out of sleep. Sometimes she whispered in her own language, words Dale couldn't understand. Dale sat near the door, watching the dark sky through a small crack in the wall. Stars blinked far above. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small data pad. He opened a language file. Ancient Eliari. Maybe he could learn a word, or two. He wasn't good at talking, but maybe it was time to try. He looked back at her. She was breathing slowly, her chest rising and falling. The worst part was over, for now. Dale whispered to himself, "You're not dying tonight." He didn't know why he had saved her. Maybe it was because she reminded him of someone. Maybe he was just tired of watching people die. Or maybe he just didn't want to be alone anymore. She thought he was going to kill her. The desert sun rose slowly, shining through the cracks of the shelter's metal roof. Warm light touched the girl's face as she slept on the old blanket bed. She opened her eyes suddenly. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Her body tensed. Her hand reached for something, anything to defend herself. But there was nothing, only quiet. Then she saw him, a human, sitting in the corner, watching her. Her heart jumped. She gasped and tried to move back, but pain shot through her side. She whimpered, weak and afraid. Dale didn't move. He stayed seated, hands open, voice calm. "You're safe," he said softly. "I helped you, that's all." But she didn't understand his words. All she saw was a human male, a weapon near him. A strange place. Her people had warned her about humans. They will kill you if you're weak. She thought this was it. He had saved her only to hurt her later. Her breathing grew faster. She stared at him like a cornered animal. Dale saw it. He raised his hands higher, slowly. No weapons, no chains, no harm. He pointed at the cup of water beside her bed and then pointed to her. "Drink," he said. She didn't move. He reached for the cup, poured a little into a spoon, and held it out, staying far. After a long pause, she took it with a shaking hand. She drank the water slowly, her eyes still locked on him. Dale gave a small nod. "Good." She coughed a little and looked away. He could see it in her face. She still didn't trust him. Later that day, Dale moved around the shelter, checking the solar panels and collecting dry plants to boil for tea. He worked quietly, letting her watch him from the bed. She was still too weak to stand, but she didn't close her eyes anymore. She stayed alert, watching every step. When he tried to give her a warm cloth to clean her face, she flinched. He paused. "I won't hurt you," he said again. Still nothing. But after a while, she took the cloth. Very slowly, she cleaned her face herself. That was a start. That night, Dale lit a small fire in a barrel near the wall. The wind outside had grown colder and the desert night was always cruel. He offered her a bite of food, soft cooked root and dried fruit. She didn't take it. She looked away and whispered something in her own language. He didn't know the words, but he could hear the pain in her voice. It sounded like, "Finish it, kill me already." He shook his head. "No," he said softly. Then he reached into a box and pulled out a small translator chip. It was old, half broken, but maybe it could help. He turned it on and placed it between them. The device blinked once. It tried to catch her voice, but she didn't speak again. Still he tried. "My name is Dale," he said clearly. The device buzzed, tried to translate. Then he pointed to himself. "Dale." Her eyes narrowed. He pointed to her. "You?" She didn't answer, but her lips moved, a whisper. "Sira." The translator caught it. Repeated. "Sira." Dale smiled just a little. "Sira?" She looked surprised, maybe even confused. No, one had said her name with care for a long time. The next morning, Dale woke up and found her sitting up. Her eyes were clearer. Her body was still weak, but she looked stronger than before. He brought her a bowl of warm broth. This time, she took it. She ate slowly, watching him the whole time. Finally, she spoke. Not loud, not with trust, but she said it anyway. "Why, save me?" Dale looked at her and answered truthfully. "Because no one should die alone." She said nothing after that. But for the first time, she looked at him not with fear, but with wonder. She tried to escape, but came back bleeding. The sun was rising again. Heat rolled across the dry desert, but inside Dale's shelter it was quiet and still. The fire from the night had died. The air was cool, almost peaceful. But Sira was awake. She had been watching the door for hours. Dale was asleep in his corner, snoring softly, his jacket pulled over his chest. Sira sat up slowly, holding her side. The pain was less now. Her wounds had started to heal. The water and food had helped, but in her mind, danger still lived. No matter how kind the human had been, she couldn't trust him. Not fully. Her people were gone. She had no one. She didn't belong here, and she couldn't stay. She looked at the old metal door. It wasn't locked. She stood up, slowly, quietly. Her legs were weak, but she moved carefully. She reached the door, opened it just enough, and slipped outside into the morning light. The desert was quiet. Sira walked with slow, painful steps. Her bare feet sank into the hot sand. Every breath hurt. Her legs shook, but she kept moving. She didn't know where to go. She only knew one thing. Freedom meant leaving. She passed broken rocks, dry bushes, and old metal ruins from the war. The sun rose higher. Her throat became dry. Her eyes burned. Still she walked. She had to. Hours passed. Suddenly, a sound, sharp, growling. Close. She turned quickly. A creature stood behind her, tall, thin, with black skin and long claws. It had smelled her blood. She backed away, stumbling. The creature charged. She tried to run, but her leg gave out. A sharp pain. The beast swiped her leg and she screamed, falling into the sand. It was over, but then a shot rang out. The creature screeched. A second shot, louder, clearer. The beast fell. Sira opened her eyes. Dale was standing nearby, gun in hand, chest heaving, sweat running down his face. He ran to her. "You ran," he said, breathless. "Damn it, Sira." She looked away, ashamed. Blood ran down her leg. Dale tore cloth from his sleeve and tied it quickly, stopping the bleeding. "You could have died," he whispered. "I had to go," she said softly. "Why?" "I was afraid," she said, her voice shaking. "I didn't want to belong to anyone." Dale looked at her for a long moment. "Then don't," he said. "You're not a prisoner. I never wanted to keep you. I just wanted to help." Sira started to cry, not loud but quiet, broken sobs. "I don't know how to trust." "That's okay," he said. "You don't have to. Not yet." He picked her up in his arms, just like the first day. Back at the shelter, Dale cleaned her wound and wrapped it tightly. He gave her water and helped her lie down. She watched him the whole time. His hands were strong but gentle. No anger, no punishment, only care. Later, as the wind blew outside, she whispered, "Why didn't you let me go?" He sat down beside her. "Because I didn't want you to die." "I almost did," she said. "But you didn't," he replied. "You came back." There was silence. Then she said something he didn't expect. "My name is not just Sira." He looked at her. "In my language, it means one who survives the storm." He smiled. Fitting. That night, for the first time, she didn't sleep with her back to the wall. She slept facing him. Because for the first time, she didn't feel like she had to run. He spoke her language, and her heart opened. The desert wind was soft that morning. Golden light came through the cracks of the metal shelter. A small plant, green and alive, grew near the corner where Dale had placed it days ago. Sira sat beside it, her leg wrapped in fresh bandages. She gently touched the leaf. It was the first living thing she had seen in weeks. Besides him, she turned her head. Dale was sitting by the fire, whispering to himself. He was holding a small device, a translator, the same one he had used before. Sira narrowed her eyes, listening. He spoke again. "Va la ri sa." He made a face and shook his head. Then he tried again. "Va la risa." She blinked. He was trying to speak her language. She stood slowly and walked closer. He didn't see her at first. He was too focused. Then she said softly, "You're saying it wrong." Dale looked up, surprised. She smiled a little. "But you tried?" He held up the translator. This thing doesn't help much, but I figured, if we're living together, I should learn. Sira sat beside him. You learned fast, she said. I only know a few words. Still, no one has ever tried. Dale looked into her glowing eyes. You're not just some guest, you matter. Silence. Then Sira asked, Do you know what my people used to say? He shook his head. If someone learns your language, she said, they are trying to see your heart. He blinked. Then I guess I'm looking. She looked down, hiding her smile. Later that day, they sat outside the shelter. The wind was calm, the sky was clear. Far in the distance, sand dunes rolled like waves. Sira picked up the translator. Again. She pointed to the sun. Tiraka, Tiraka, Dale repeated. She pointed to the sand. Voen. Voen. She touched her heart. Sira. He smiled. You. Then he did the same. He pointed to himself. Dale. She touched his chest gently. Dale. That small touch made them both freeze for a second. It wasn't just learning words now, it was trust. It was something more. That evening, Sira helped him cook dinner. She had learned how to cut roots and mix dry plants for tea. She moved slowly but with more energy than before. You're healing fast, Dale said. She nodded. Your medicine helped, but your kindness helped more. Dale stirred the food. I didn't do much. You stayed, she replied. That's everything. Later she looked at the plant in the corner again. It's growing, she said. Yeah, Dale replied. Like you. She turned to him, her voice soft. Can I ask something strange? Go ahead. Why were you alone in the desert? He was quiet for a long time. Then he answered, I lost people. In the war. I didn't want to be near anyone anymore. Sira looked down. Same. He gave her a sad smile. Then maybe. We found each other for a reason. She didn't speak. Instead, she leaned her head against his shoulder. No fear, no wall between them now. Only two hearts. Learning how to beat again. Her people came looking for her, but they called her a traitor. The wind was louder today. Dust swirled across the desert as dark clouds moved in from the west. Dale stood near the edge of the rocks, looking up at the sky. Something didn't feel right. Inside the shelter, Sira carefully poured water into a clay pot. The green plant she and Dale had planted was growing well now. She smiled as she touched the soft leaves, but her smile faded when she heard the sound, a low, distant rumble. Not thunder, not a sandstorm. Engines. Dale rushed back inside. His face was tight. Ship, he said. It's coming this way. Sira stood still. Her breath caught. Who is it? She asked, voice tense. Don't know, he said. But you should hide, just in case. Sira shook her head slowly. If it's them, I have to face them. Dale stared at her and understood. Moments later, a sleek silver ship landed near the valley, kicking up dust. The engines shut off, and the hatch opened. 3 alien figures stepped out, tall, elegant, wearing dark robes with glowing patterns. They were Eliari, Sira's people. She stepped forward slowly, her legs still stiff, her eyes filled with emotion. The lead figure looked at her and frowned. Sira, he said coldly. You're alive. She nodded. I survived. The second figure, a woman with sharp eyes, spoke next. You were listed as dead. We stopped searching. I was left for dead, Sira replied. I found safety here. They looked past her and saw Dale, standing quietly with his rifle lowered. The third Eliari stepped forward quickly, raising a small weapon. Back away from her, human, he shouted. You will not keep her as your toy. Sira stepped between them fast. No, he didn't harm me, he saved me. The leader narrowed his eyes. You speak for him now? Sira nodded. Yes, he gave me water, Food. He learned my language. He protected me. The woman folded her arms. You let him touch you? Sierra said nothing. That was answer enough. You're tainted, the woman said sharply. We came to rescue you, but you have chosen to live like a human. I chose to live, Sierra said. You left me. He didn't. The leader shook his head. You've become one of them. Dale stepped forward. She's not property. Not yours, not mine. She's free. The Eliari soldier pointed his weapon at Dale. But Sierra stood in front of him again. If you hurt him, she said, you will lose me forever. The Eliari stared at her, at the human behind her, at the desert around them. Then the leader said one cold word. Traitor. They turned back to the ship. Let her stay in the dirt, the woman said. She has chosen her place. The ship lifted off with a roar, leaving only sand and silence behind. Back at the shelter, Sierra sat by the fire, holding a warm cloth in her hands. Her face was calm, but her heart was full of pain. Dale placed a cup of tea beside her. I'm sorry, he said. For what? They should have welcomed you back. They should have been happy to see you. Sierra shook her head. They didn't come for me. They came for the girl I used to be. She looked at Dale. I'm not her anymore. He sat beside her. Then, who are you? She touched her chest. I'm Sierra, the one who survived the storm. He smiled gently. And the one who stayed. She nodded. Outside, the wind had stopped. Inside, a new peace had started. She took a bullet meant for him. The desert was quiet again. Days had passed since Sierra's people had come and gone. She hadn't spoken much about it, but Dale didn't press her. He gave her space, and she filled it with quiet strength. Their garden was growing. The shelter had new walls. They ate together, worked side by side, and spoke more often. Dale even smiled now, something rare before she came. But peace doesn't last long in the desert. One afternoon, Dale was checking the solar panels when he saw movement on the horizon. 3 specks in the distance, moving fast. He lifted his scope. Raiders, desert men with stolen armor and rusted weapons. Killers. Dale ran back to the shelter. We've got trouble. Sierra stood up quickly. How many? 3, maybe 4, coming fast. She looked at him. We run? He shook his head. Too late. Get inside. But she didn't. She grabbed a metal rod and stood by the door. I'm not hiding, she said. Not this time. Minutes later, the raiders reached the shelter. One stepped forward and laughed. Well, well, a human and an alien girl? What a strange little couple. Dale raised his rifle. You need to leave. The second raider pointed his weapon. Give us your supplies and the girl. Maybe we let you live. Sierra narrowed her eyes. Try it. The raider laughed. She talks. Suddenly a shot rang out. Dale fired first, hitting the third man in the arm. Gunfire exploded in the air. Dale pushed Sierra behind the door and returned fire. The raiders spread out, shooting wildly. One ran toward the shelter. Dale moved to block him, but the raider aimed right at Dale's chest. The shot fired, and Sierra jumped in front of him. The bullet hit her side. She collapsed into his arms. Sierra, he shouted, catching her as she fell. Blood ran down her clothes. She gasped, her voice weak. I had to. Dale's face twisted in pain and rage. He turned, aimed, and fired 2 shots. Clean, fast, and final. The last raider fell. The air went silent again. Inside the shelter, Dale laid her gently on the bed, grabbing the med kit with shaking hands. You're going to be okay, he said. Just a deep wound. I've seen worse. Sierra winced but tried to smile. You always say that. He pressed a clean cloth to the wound and sealed it with spray foam. Her breathing was heavy. I told you to hide, he said, his voice breaking. She looked up at him. I couldn't watch you die. Tears filled his eyes. You saved me again, he whispered. She touched his hand. That's what family does. Later that night, Sierra slept, her face pale but peaceful. Dale sat beside her, holding her hand, never letting go. The fire cracked softly. Outside, the stars began to rise. He looked at her and whispered, "You were right. I was alone. But not anymore." His voice trembled. "I won't lose you." And in the quiet of the desert, something powerful had taken root, stronger than pain, stronger than fear. Love. They rebuilt life together in the sand. The desert had changed. The wind still blew, the sun still burned. But something was different now. Life had returned to a place once known only for death and silence. Dale and Sierra had survived, and more than that, they had built something worth living for. Months later, the garden outside the shelter was now full of green. Crops grew in neat rows. A water tank hummed nearby. 2 solar towers stood tall, collecting light to power the small home. Sierra stood barefoot in the garden, her hands in the soil, her eyes glowing softly in the morning sun. A soft breeze brushed her silver hair. She looked healthy, strong, alive. Inside the shelter, Dale was fixing an old radio. He still checked the signal every morning, not because he was waiting for help, but in case someone else out there needed it. He had changed too. His face was softer now. His eyes had lost that empty look they once held. He didn't live in the past anymore. He had Sierra, and she had him. That evening, they sat together under the stars, near the fire pit they had built with stone and metal. Sparks floated up into the sky. Sierra leaned against his shoulder. "It's peaceful," she said. "For once." He smiled. She looked up at the stars. "Sometimes I wonder if my people will ever come back." Dale paused. "If they do, what will you say?" She thought for a moment. "I'll say I found my place, right here, with you." Dale didn't say anything. He just took her hand and held it tightly. Weeks later, they helped a small group of lost travelers, humans and aliens who had broken down nearby. Dale gave them fuel. Sierra gave them food. They gave hope, and people began to talk. Soon others came, quiet, wounded people with no place to go. Dale and Sierra welcomed them all. They built new shelters beside the old one, more gardens, a small tower with a beacon to guide travelers. What was once just survival had become a home. One night, Sierra sat beside a small child, an orphan girl with wide eyes and dirty hands. The girl curled into her lap and fell asleep. Dale watched from a distance. Sierra looked up and smiled. "We didn't just survive," she said. "We gave others a reason to live." Dale nodded. "I never thought I'd be part of something this good." "You are," she whispered. "You're the reason it began." He sat beside her, resting his hand on hers. Under alien stars, 2 souls, once broken, once afraid, now stood strong. Together they had taken pain and turned it into purpose. Together they had built something powerful. Love, trust, a new life. In the middle of endless sand, they had made a place no one expected. Home.